This is day 3 of the June 94 10-day retreat in Springwater. The meetings, group and individual, have been rich in questions, and it's impossible to discuss them all, or even to remember them verbatim, or to respond to them totally. By that I mean saying all the different things that could be said in the light of a question. There are always things that are left out. That could have been mentioned. That's what meetings are for, to bring up what needs to be said by people who feel it's not been expressed properly or sufficiently, or the request to please go over it again, or what do you mean by it? This is all the stuff that meetings are made of. One question that comes up here and there, may be important to go into right in the beginning, is, are you, Toni, always aware? Do you also get entangled? What do you do when you sit down? It's important to bring it up, to respond to it, so there's little opportunity to build unrealistic images about one another. That one person is always aware and another person is never aware. Both of them are false. Of course I'm not always aware. Of course there's entanglement in thoughts, and thoughts quickly trigger emotions. Emotions triggering more thoughts, and that's what we call entanglement. But underneath it all, if we may use that way of putting it carefully, it's not a directional thing, but I'm saying carefully, underneath it all is a bedrock of awareness or attention or presence. Because the fact is, presence is always here. Nothing takes place any place else, even the fondest or scariest memories of the past, or the most pleasurable or horrifying anticipations of the future, always take place now. There's only the presence, there's nothing else. All memory, all anticipation, all creation of time takes place now, and can be seen now, when the mind or body or whatever we want to refer to is open. When there's openness, leave body and mind out. The openness of presence reveals the memory that reverberates in thought throughout the body, taking the shape of emotions. Emotions taking the shape of thoughts. That goes for all of us. And for all of us goes that there is only presence, whether there's awareness of it or not. What do I do when I sit down? Caw, caw, caw. That's what I do. Breathing, heart beating, airplane humming. Someone asked, do you still meditate? What is that? Being here is that meditation, the openness of being here. I have no name for it. In a retreat, such as this one right now, there are very few entangling thoughts or emotions. Right at this moment, there's none. It doesn't mean there won't be one the next moment. We'll have to see. So the energy can gather freely in ka, ka, ka. And whatever else is happening this instant. Maybe we can add to ka, 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 not knowing, not needing to know. The openness of no need for definition of oneself or the world or what is heard or felt or seen. If definition comes up, can it be seen as such? The definition not being the actual event, although it in itself is an actual event, defining, naming, reacting. And when awareness is there, rather than entanglement in the content of the thoughts and emotions, there's awareness that thought has triggered an emotion, and that there's unpleasantness manifested in the body or pleasure. With which we come to the next question. One person saying their thoughts coming up, and they can be seen, and nothing much happens. But why do I get entangled at other times? And what is this I? What is this me that gets entangled? I've looked for it, I haven't found anything, and yet the fact is I get entangled. So this is such a beautiful case to look at. It's simple for all of us to look through the magnifying glass at this simple case of thought comes up and I get entangled. But what is this I that gets entangled? What is the magnifying glass that is so often spoken about? Let's take it under the magnifying glass, I say. Meaning, stop thinking about it only, but begin to look at what we call involvement. That was actually the word, but entanglement is just as good. Involvement, engagement, caught upness, getting caught up in thoughts. What is the magnifying glass? It's looking. It's allowing the energies that are always there. Energy is there. It is the fact of the universe, the fact of life, that it is energy. It's there, allowing it to gather in an inquiry. What is entanglement and who gets entangled? There's some interest there to find out, because it's puzzling to all of us. Why do we get entangled? Last moment I was free, now I'm all caught up in something. Anger, fear, seeking for pleasure, discontent, annoyance, resentment, whatever. So, magnifying glasses, let's find out. Let's take time with it. Here we have 8 days of time, or rather of no time pressure. We can look, wonder, allow curiosity to gather. And when curiosity gathers, the energy serves. It's there to serve. This was the question of one person. Where does the energy to listen or to inquire come from? I feel such lethargy. I'm not going to get distracted from our initial question, but this is also an important one. Where does the energy come from? It comes from nowhere. It's there. It's there, readily available when there's some wonderment or some inquiry, some interest in finding out, which may have been preceded by an annoyance. Why do I get annoyed? I don't want to get annoyed. What's going on? Don't want to get entangled. Why do I get entangled? Let's find out what's happening. And with that, energy is already at the beck and call. It's there. Because it's always there. As for lethargy, not to be down on it. Not to say I shouldn't be lethargic. Maybe it's sort of a hibernation period after which the bear emerges from the cave. At times we need to lie fallow like a field that has been plowed and seeded and harvested, gone over and over and over. All kinds of machinery and stuff lies fallow. The field doesn't think, oh, I'm lethargic, I ought to have some seeds in here. Seeds fall anyways. We call them weeds. So, what is entanglement? That's our question. And who gets entangled even though I can't find anybody, says the person. So what do you find in looking? A thought arises. Now that thought is maybe different for 41 people. What could be a typical thought on day 3 of a retreat? How nice it would be elsewhere. Is that a typical thought? Not for everyone. At home. Or on vacation. One person said, why didn't I take a real vacation? This is a real vacation if the vacating happens. That's the meaning of the word vacation, is vacating from all the stuff that crowds this body-mind and pressures it. So what is a typical thought that comes up? Why am I doing so poorly? Why don't things go better? Why not this clarity that I had last time? How are things going at home right now? My children all right, my baby. And what happens with a thought like this? How nice it would be here. I feel bored, or I'm not saying that this is what people have been telling me. I'm improvising. Nothing happens. I imagine it to be different. Someplace else, maybe I could be more productive, or things would be better. With such a thought, emotions arise, don't they? Of either resenting being here or wanting with pleasurable anticipation to be someplace else. And the pleasurable sensation feeds on itself. It makes the body feel good, to feel pleasurable, because before there was no feeling. It felt kind of blah. All our usual stimulation of our daily living is not here. The only one provided is through fantasy. And as one comes upon fantasy, one despairs of ever being without fantasy, so it's also criticized or judged. And with that thought, negative emotions arise in the body. Either positive emotions, pleasurable ones, or negative, painful, unpleasant ones are aroused by thoughts arising in the body. Are we together in this up to this point? thought about a different place where I could be, the pleasure aroused by this thought, the displeasure about being here. Please, I'm not saying this is typical for people. Nobody has told me about displeasure. Sometimes people who hear tapes of questions say, what is going on in those retreats? We're just using examples of pleasure and displeasure. Because the question was, why do I get entangled and yet I don't find an I that gets entangled? What is that? That was our initial question. So the thought about a nice place and the pleasure and wanting more of that pleasure, therefore thinking more about it, and maybe thinking about another pleasurable incident and keeping the pleasurable juices going throughout the body, chemicals and whatever, all is aroused in the body. Or the same with negative thoughts and painful emotions of fear, sadness. One person said, at first, there's fear. And then looking a bit, there's sadness in this fear. We were in a meeting together, so we could look at it instantly. Not that you can't look at it alone, you can. So then, what is the sadness? What is the fear? If the word dissipates, dissolves, but if one doesn't look in this way, what is it? And be with it, come what may. Putting up with the displeasure, which one doesn't call displeasure anymore, and then it is just a certain form of energy. It's another word. Something is going on that can be felt, seen, watched, heard, experienced, spaciously without objection, with a gentle, embracing interest. That can happen, together or alone. But if it doesn't happen, then sad thoughts usually lead to more sad thoughts. Particularly, I'm so sad that I feel sad. How much happier I could be if I wasn't here feeling so sad. And conflict is aroused. Conflict with what is, which arouses symptoms in the body. Symptoms of tension, of stress, caused by conflict with itself. Either with sad, fearful thoughts or with pleasurable thoughts. Often we're not in conflict with the pleasurable thoughts, but we may be. We may think we shouldn't think anything pleasurable or sad. So there's conflict with thinking, because thought says you shouldn't think. And the body faithfully accompanies this you shouldn't by resisting somewhere, racing against something. This is such a subtle instrument, following every word and thought to the T, expressing it physically. And that physical expression, unless it's pleasurable, is not wanted, is also braced against. And about all of this happening, which we're looking at right now, the description is not the actual happening. Do we see that? I've been describing and describing. But that's not the actual happening. That's something that takes place and can be observed directly, without description. Are we observing? Is there observation of thought creating emotion, emotion creating more thought and conflict, or wanting more, which is thought? Thought wanting more creates more by thinking more about something pleasurable. Where in all this is this I that we say and feel has gotten entangled. For the last 5 or 10 minutes that the talk has been going on, it was possible to express things without once using the me or the I word. It was descriptive of what is observed to be happening without this additional comment, I have gotten lost, I have gotten entangled, involved. So can we watch in this wise? All the time trying to trace what is this I that gives us or seems to give us so much trouble as an idea, as a concept, as a deep, fundamental assumption that it exists. What is it? Let's trace it, alone and together. Try to get a hold of it. If it exists, it has to be gotten hold of. But it has to be possible. And one may find that all that reveals itself is thoughts and emotions and feelings, intentions, sensations, pleasures, pains, fears, which are also not the word. What are they? To find out, you need to watch, enter into it, if you will. The language is always dualistic. The actual entering into is not dualistic. It's the absence of wanting to meddle, the absence of trying to interfere or control, but rather to find out. Something that has been bothersome to people who have brought it up in meetings, from I think the yesterday's talk, was that it seemed to imply two separate realities. We were talking about talking about competing realities, the reality of the me world, with its thoughts and fears and pains and agonies and pleasures. And that other reality, which is just beingness. I have no good word for it. Suchness, thusness, awareness, all words. But when it is palpably present, it's not a word. So, what has happened in people's minds is that a duality has been created between the good reality, which is beingness, thusness, here-ness, awareness, openness, and this bad stuff of the ego, which really shouldn't be. One should get out of it. And with it the question, isn't fear also a reality? And pleasure? Isn't that also a reality? Is it? Is there what is happening fully there? Without the clouding of names and words and reactions? Which obscure and distort what's actually happening in the body, in relationship. how real is this fear? And what supports it? What keeps it going? I didn't say what triggered it because very often we're not aware. Most of the time, we're not aware what triggered this sudden onset of fear. Even though it's not impossible to be aware of a fleeting thought which can set this whole organism into a state of anxiety, fear, panic. One thought can do it. But then it may not be a verbal thought, it may be just a memory. A crow cawing, which cawed at a time of an accident, painful accident, which one maybe was rendered unconscious. But a crow cawing can still trigger discomfort or anxiety. A loud plane overhead for this organism here triggers some upset, dating back to when planes flew overhead and dropped unpleasant bombs. Doesn't have to be any thinking involved, but the memory without word triggers state of fear, displeasure, anxiety, panic. So here it is. Is it real? Meaning it is truly what it is and not what thought and memory and reaction makes it out to be. It's amazing what transforming powers thought and reaction have on a state which the body has rather innocently produced in response to a trigger. The trigger saying, watch out, there's danger, and the body responds. To fight danger or to run from danger or to freeze in the presence of danger. That's the body's duty, conditioning over millennia. And is that the reality which is perceived, or is there a constant injection of thinking about it, interpreting it, remembering about it, anticipating the course of it according to how things went in the past, which now shapes this simple response into something else, into something continuous, based on usually false notions, false assumptions, false anticipations. Not always false, but most of the time. Because the present situation is different than what was and what is remembered and brought to bear. Is this too difficult? So no one is saying that one shouldn't have fear, that fear is bad, anger is bad, undesirable. We're not saying that. We're saying look at it, be intimate with it, familiar with it, feel it, see it, hear it, be with it as it is, and watch what keeps it going so that we become wise about it. That we're learning that more thought about it keeps this thing going. Listening to the fly or bee or whatever is buzzing there is not thought. It does not continue anxiety or fear or anger. It's just listening or buzzing, being. Even though the body may still manifest the fear symptoms of the previous thought, it does not need to interfere with open listening now, unless thought keeps this thing going. And it does if it's not detected as doing that. How to detect it, I don't know. When awareness is there, it makes transparent what's happening. There's no how to. But fear is painful, disagreeable. So does that disagreeableness arouse the thought, what's going on here? What's the matter? I need to look, need to take out some quiet time to be with this thing in a different way than just mechanically going on with memories and expectations. That's the first step. Take time out to be with it, unconditionally. And with that, the energy presents itself because it is present. So is this way of open being with, open presence, open listening, in which the fear can reveal itself? We're just calling it fear. It is not a word, it is a process happening. Is this openness in which physical unpleasantness or pleasantness can reveal itself realistically, clearly? Is that the absence of duality? Because they're clearly not two states. The awareness and what manifests is one happening, one being. It's not I have to beware of that, or I have to listen to the crows. The caw is the awareness, and the pleasant or unpleasantness in the body is the awareness of this instant. And I find no I that is doing anything in that, because that thought is quiet. It's just pleasantness, unpleasantness, caw, and the awareness of the whole thing. The awareness being whole. It doesn't take partial positions of I like this, I don't like that. If those thoughts occur, then awareness can reveal those thoughts as happening. I like this, I don't like that. And it can reveal the consequences of those thoughts, which are either clinging and clutching, fear of losing that which I like, or hating that which I don't like, wanting to get rid of it. All that is revealed in the openness of being there, presence, awareness. I just want to touch upon one question. It may come up again in these remaining 5 talks. 5. There's a fear manifesting, people say. A real fear sort of begins to be felt at the thought of this state of awareness or beingness or clarity in which I am not. I don't think I want to be in a state in which I am not, with my feelings and thoughts. Are those thoughts familiar? I'm afraid, I'm apprehensive about this state where I may not be as I know myself, and I prefer to be as I am, with my feelings and emotions and thoughts, then lose that. I'm attached to this body, to all that this incarnation generates. And fear at the thought that there may be a state of that. See, there is no state of nothing. There's always something. Can one see right now, right this moment, not postpone it till day 8 or 10, see right now that this is a thought, a speculative assumption, painting a picture of this void, this nothingness, making what is unknowable into a scary known. And it's not to we're not asked or asking to keep imagining the state of the unknown or oneness or enlightenment or non-dividedness or beingness. It's not a matter of imagination, it's something that's prevailing, that's there. It's not to be imagined. But with the help of this present energy, which is clarity and light, can the prison, the cage, be illumined so that we learn about it and become wise about it. What it is that gives that feeling of separation, alienation, one person said this morning. Everything I was doing or not doing became meaningless. It didn't have any meaning to it anymore. And looking at other people who were so busily pursuing their things, I felt so alienated. What is this alienation? What is the isolation? Can it be lit up with attention? Not in order to destroy it or break it down. We need to do nothing. Just need to see what's there. And the seeing is the new state, the new way of being. Aware, alert, open, awake to what's there. And not instantly deceived by it. Or if deception takes place, it can be seen the next moment. If it's not seen, it goes on. So, one doesn't have to worry about picturing this state of oneness. It's not picturable anyways. But what is this state of division? How does it feel? How does it look? How is it created and maintained? And listen to the thoughts and emotions and what all we talked about earlier today. How it operates to entangle or knot up the free flow of energy. Which doesn't mean, what was said right now, and the talk is always with a lot of intensity, which may evoke the imagined injunction. This is what you have to do. We don't have to do anything. These are all possibilities. Which take place on their own. Maybe having something to do with talking about it, listening to a talk, engaging in dialogue. And then suddenly something is clear. And what is clear need not be propped up or maintained or continued. Right now, as we are sitting here, the end of the talk, all the sounds of different birds and insects, and people moving and breathing. Do we have to listen to it, or is it simply there as attention is drawn to it? Including a body sitting here, the buttocks on the cushion or seat of the chair, hands touching thighs or each other. Maybe some sensations of tension in the shoulders, back, neck, head. Motor sound. Is it hard to listen to that? Or is it there? If it's hard to listen to it, why? What's going on? Too much effort to hear it? There is no effort, either to sing or to hear. It happens on its own. We will end here for today.